To kick it all off, let's bring in our political reporter, Jacob Noterman, who is standing by at the Bismarck Event Center, where voters will be casting ballots in just 2 hours. And Jacob, what kind of day and night are we looking at?
At the national level, various different states are operating under unique circumstances, obviously, and they're also operating under their own unique operations as well. So it may be a little while until we see any kind of presidential results. But statewide, we should be seeing somewhat sooner throughout the evening. Ballots have already been counting for quite some time. And if we take a look around in this empty parking lot, we still got a few hours until polls actually open up right here on Election Day. We're showing you some video of people actually voting. As polls have been open for some time, North Dakota trying to get ahead, trying to give people an opportunity to vote for some time so that we can get all the votes we need throughout this pandemic. Now, as you noted, we will be having full coverage of the election throughout the night. We're going to be getting results throughout the evening, and we're going to be using every single reporter on our staff to break down the races you care about. I'm going to be at the Democratic NPL watch party later tonight to get candidate results, get candidate reactions. The Republicans will be holding a virtual watch party as well. We will be having coverage on that. Any kind of acceptance speech from any party will be coming up later tonight.
Jacob, what kind of night are we looking at?
Well, it's certainly going to be a long night at the national scale, but statewide, there's a race that we're keeping our eye on, and inherently, it's a governor's race. There are 3 candidates going for that top job: the incumbent Governor Doug Burgum, the Dem NPL challenger Shelley Lenz, and the Libertarian Dwayne Hendrickson. Now, whoever wins that election tonight is going to play a significant role in reshaping North Dakota, not only throughout the rest of the pandemic, but once the state inherently gets out of the pandemic. And here is a breakdown of some of the plans comparing Burgum to Lenz. Shelley Lenz, a veterinarian out of Dickinson, is trying to place an incident commander model. Essentially, it's a state health officer model, but with a bit more authority. There would be one individual who would oversee much of the pandemic's response and work in consultation with the governor and the state legislature. Compare that to how the governor has been operating as of late and how much of the decision-making has been coming out of his office. Early on in the pandemic, it seemed as though the governor was handing out executive orders almost every day. And some could say that that is how the governor has now reshaped his approach, taking a light touch to government. Whoever wins the governor's spot tonight will have to go up against the state legislature that will be looking to change many of the emergency powers.
Yes, polls are beginning to open here. They're going to be opening at 7 o'clock. We see a few people walking by who are going to start lining up. Jacob, tell me a little bit about some of the coverage that you're going to have for tonight.
Well, as I mentioned, I'll be at the Dem NPL watch party later tonight, but that one race that I'm really focusing in on, we talked about the governor early on. We're also going to be focusing on that U.S. House seat, that statewide, that one representative, that one voice that North Dakota really has in the House of Representatives. The incumbent representative, Kelly Armstrong, he's got the Dem NPL candidate, Zach Racknerud, out of Minot. He's got the Libertarian, Stephen Peterson, out of Fargo. Kelly Armstrong really dealing with a lot in his first term. Voting on impeachment, being part of that investigation on the Judiciary Committee, voting on stimulus. It has been a packed first term. It's going to be interesting to see how North Dakota feels about where he stood on various topics, including those. How about you? We've got a lot of statewide races. What's going on at the state level race?
Yep, I have a couple of races I'm focusing on, but the one I'd like to tell you about is the treasurer's race. Now, the incumbent, she's not running for another term. She's been in office since 2005. So we have Republican Thomas Beadle, who's been in the legislature since 2011. And then we have Democratic NPL Mark Haugen, who doesn't have a past in politics, but he's been an EMT for 35 years, and he works at University of Oregon, or not University of Oregon, University of Mary. So they both have very interesting pasts, and they're very, very different candidates, but we'll see where that goes.
And that race has also been kind of the focus of a lot of media campaigns as well.
Yeah, especially lately, there's been a lot of political ads coming out. We ran a story on Friday about the $2.5 million that Governor Doug Burgum has spent on these political campaigns. So we'll see if that follows through. We'll see if it works. And to find your polling place, if you need to come and vote, you still haven't done so, you can go to vote.nd.gov and select where to vote, and you can find your exact polling place.
Absolutely. Polls open in about 10 minutes. Election 2020, our coverage kicks off in just a little bit. Stick around. Live in Bismarck, Morgan Benth, Jacob Noterman for your news leader.
Let's go to Jacob Noterman and Morgan Benth for what they are watching tonight when those results start coming in.
Well, obviously, one of the higher ticket items that we're going to be paying attention to, the governor's race. Governor Burgum going up against the Dem NPL challenger Shelley Lenz, the veterinarian out of Dickinson, and Libertarian Dwayne Hendrickson. Now, when we're talking about the governor's race, obviously we're talking about how the state is going to look throughout, and once the pandemic is actually wrapped up, all of these candidates are going to be having a heavy hand, and it's also going to boil down to whether or not these candidates can get along with the state legislature. Governor Burgum has had a history in the past throughout the primary, even back in 2016, not necessarily getting along with certain lawmakers within his own party, mostly about business closure policies and considering some of his PAC use money throughout the primary and throughout the campaign. And some of the parties that have been involved in all of that, Morgan Benth, you've been following District 8. What's been going on in that race?
Yeah, I've been following District 8 since the primary, actually, and the Republican primary for District 8 was quite an interesting one. Representative Jeff Delzer had been in that seat since 1995, actually, so a very, very long time. And then when Vernon Landing, the representative, also incumbent, decided not to run, that opened a seat up, and two different candidates saw that as two seats opening up, and they ended up getting endorsed by the party. Now, that is Dave Nearing and Dave Andal, and since then, at the beginning of October, Dave Andal has passed away with COVID-19. Now, there's been some confusion around that subject from different areas, but it has been decided by the Secretary of State and the Attorney General that he has stayed on the ballot. Now, after the fact, there's going to be, if he is elected, they'll have to fill that seat because obviously he cannot serve in that position. So after the fact, voters will be able to call a special election of sorts, or the more likely method that it seems they're going for right now is a vote for Andal is a vote for the party nonetheless. So the NDGOP would be able to appoint someone new to that spot.
Now, obviously, there's been a lot of confusion over who's been qualified, who's actually in the race, how these parties have been working together or against each other. There's even some confusion as to how some people have been able to vote. What's the last-ditch effort for people if they want to get involved?
Yeah, well, there's a few hours left. A lot of polling places, including the Bismarck Event Center, are open until 7 tonight. If you need to find your polling place for your exact district, you can go to vote.nd.gov and select where to vote.
Let's get up to speed on one of the races to keep your eyes on. Jacob Noderman is out waiting for the polls to close. Jacob, the nation will obviously be watching the race for the White House. But what's going on in North Dakota's House race tonight?
Yeah, Monica, it's going to be final call out here at the Bismarck Event Center. Polls closing in just under an hour, and one of those races, as you noted, that these fine people will be voting on is the U.S. House race. North Dakota's one voice in the House of Representatives is up for grabs. The incumbent Kelly Armstrong has had a full-packed first term in office. Just after 6 years serving in the state Senate, he moved to Washington, D.C. to fill in for Kevin Cramer, who moved on into the Senate. And in his first term, he has seen everything from having a seat on the Judiciary Committee overseeing the president's impeachment trial, the voting against impeachment, and then playing a role in shaping stimulus packages and relief bills for the coronavirus. His challenger is Minot Zach Racknerud, the Dem NPL candidate. He's not necessarily far left, but he has been adopting many policies that some would consider to be things like guaranteeing health care for all individuals, and even trying to push an idea called an electives dividend, in that individuals will be able to donate to whichever political campaign they want. He says these ideas are as centrist as they can possibly be. And then there's Fargo Stephen Peterson, the libertarian, considered more centrist than a libertarian himself.
Let's go now to the Ramkota where Jacob Noderman is. Jacob?
Hey, this is my Super Bowl, guys. We've been doing a lot of the political races, as you said, and today it finally comes down to this. While you mentioned that there's a lot of screen watching, and that is at times, well, the screen watching is happening in person. We've got tablets and we have monitors for this small group of Democrats that have joined at the Ramkota Hotel. Their speeches wrapped up not too long ago. The two main themes from just about every statewide speech is that this is a different cycle than they thought they would be in. They started and launched their campaigns in January, February, and it is much different than what it was. And the second one being that the governor can't buy anything, a reference to the governor's PAC money.
The Associated Press has called incumbent Kelly Armstrong the winner in this race. Jacob Noderman is at the Ramkota Hotel, and he joins us now with more from Kelly Armstrong's challenger, Zach Racknerud.
Yeah, I'm standing here with Minot Zach Racknerud. Zach, obviously tonight didn't go your way. What are kind of your thoughts going now?
I'm just proud of the opportunity to advocate for policy that I think will better the lives of working and middle-class families. No matter what the results are, it's been a good race, and I'm excited to continue to advocate for those policies. And I think across the board, we'll see some gains in the Dem MPL with state legislature candidates and whatnot. So it's been a good, very different season than we all imagined, but it's been a good one for sure.
Going along with those advocacy for the policies, obviously some of your policies, they're not North Dakota-esque necessarily. You said that a lot of them were more centrist than they appear. So what does this kind of fellowship then kind of say for how these policies can now stick in this state?
Yeah, I mean, it just boils down to building from here, I guess, is the message, is that this is the first campaign that's been able to advocate for these kinds of investments and not taking corporate PAC money. That puts us at a disadvantage for sure, but moving forward, having that recognition and having that, the solid policy framework to work off of is a good thing to have. So I'm excited for the future for sure.
Jacob Noderman is at the Democratic Watch Party. Now, how is the energy there after receiving those results, Jacob?
Well, for the past hour or so, Dr. Lenz has not made her way back down. Just before that race got called, she made her way upstairs where she's been talking with campaign managers and whatnot, and she has yet to come back down to address us. At least in the meantime, as you mentioned, Governor Burgum projected to win another 4 years as governor, and during that going over some unprecedented times in the state, and will play a significant role in shaping the state going forward. And he's had a rather bumpy road going into this month, just going back to the primary, where just not too long ago he had a primary challenger, unlike his Democratic challenger. Michael Coachman out of Minot received just 10% of the vote in the primary. However, he continued to be somewhat of a challenge, mostly in PR, in that the governor was unable to get support from his entire state legislature simply because of many executive orders that he issued earlier on in the spring. Business closures had become contentious topic within the party. In fact, some state lawmakers even threatened to sue the governor, so we can expect the state legislature to be looking into many of his emergency powers going forward. On the other side, Dr. Lenz, who has once again making her way down here at some point, we might be able to talk to her live. She was offering an incident commander system, where in that it would be essentially a state health officer role with a bit more authority, and that position would oversee much of the state's response in the pandemic. She said that win or lose, that option would be available for any governor to take it if they win, and thus Governor Burgum will be available to take that plan if he wants. We didn't talk to Dr. Lenz after the race had been called. However, beforehand she said win or lose, she said that she feels fulfilled and says that her role in this race is somewhat historic across the state, and she admits that she knew that she was in an uphill battle, acknowledging that she was a political unknown going up against a, quote, billionaire incumbent.
So far, it looks like Josh Gallion is poised to retain his role as state auditor over Democratic challenger Patrick Hart. Now, while this race hasn't been a particularly exciting one this election cycle, Gallion has faced somewhat of a bumpy road during his term as auditor. Now, Jacob Noderman joined us once again, and he has more on that backlash that Gallion has faced.
Sorry. No, it's okay.
Yeah, as you mentioned, a bit of a bumpy road with some party inside fighting with Josh Gallion. There was some concern over his use of flashy headlines rather than trying to be effective, but we will get to that in just a second. We are now joined by Ms. Shelley Lenz. Now, Dr. Shelley Lenz, my apologies.
It's okay.
We'll get those titles in there.
It's okay.
So just a quick reaction to what you've seen tonight.
So, of course I'm disappointed. But the numbers didn't match what we saw on the ground. The energy, the love, I don't know how to say, I'm still inspired. Like, okay, so maybe I don't have the levers of government to help my people in North Dakota, but I have a new network all throughout the states that want to solve the same problems. So we're going to do that together. So you're going to see me again. This is not the end. Of course, we're going to keep everybody accountable, but I'm inspired. And I just want a message to all the North Dakotans, all the voters that supported me and had all the energy. This is just the beginning. I'm not leaving the stage. We can do this even without the levers of government. So I don't know what else to say, but of course I'm disappointed, but that just means I need to talk to more North Dakotans.
No shame in that. People love talking to North Dakotans.
We're charming.
All right, Dr. Lenz, thank you for your time and thank you for all your help on the campaign. Guys, back to you.